At this year's Paris Diamond League meeting, we had a very big clash in the men's 100 meters, and most notably, we had Noah Lyles, Ferdinand Amanyala, and the 2021 Olympic champion Lamont Marcel Jacobs all battling it out for the title of the world's fastest man. This really was one of the more anticipated clashes in this year's Diamond League scene so far. But we also had athletes such as Lyles Tebogo, Johan Blake, Ronnie Baker, and Benjamin Azamati. Given that Noah Lyles just dropped a time of 19.67 in the 200 meters, meaning that he is really starting to shape up into top form. So even though he does focus on the 200 meters slightly more, this 100 meter clash was a big moment for Noah Lyles, and it was a big opportunity to showcase his abilities in this event as well. After a fair start, Noah Lyles fell back almost immediately. In fact, he was close to last place over the first 30 or 40 meters. However, the final 60 meters of this race was just another masterclass of Noah Lyles hitting top-end speed and showcasing unmatched speed maintenance over the final stages. With great form and an absolutely stunning close, Noah Lyles pulled out the victory on this day, winning with a time of 9.97 seconds, finishing just 1/100th ahead of Ferdinand Amanyala in 9.98. Now, these two were the only athletes to break the 10-second barrier on this day, as Lyles Tebogo ran a time of 10.05, and Johan Blake finished in 4th at 10.16. Now, a big reason why this was a slightly slower race than what many people were expecting was because they ran into a pretty strong headwind of negative 0.9 meters per second. And when we take a deeper look as to exactly what was happening over each 10-meter split here, we can see that despite this big headwind, Noah Lyles was flying. I mean, he was absolutely crushing it. And again, this headwind did not slow him down in the least. Now, through the 40-meter split, Noah Lyles still had a lot of ground to make up. In fact, at this point, he was actually in 7th place out of the 8 runners in the field, hitting a time of 4.82 seconds. And at this point in the race, the leader was actually Ferdinand Amanyala, and tied for second at this point was actually Johan Blake and Ronnie Baker at 4.76. Now, moving up a little bit to the 60-meter split, Noah Lyles hit a time of 6.54. But again, with a pretty big lead at this point, was Ferdinand Amanyala at 6.48. And trailing in second with a 3-way tie at this point was Tebogo, Blake, and Ronnie Baker at 6.54. But also following quite close was Lamont Marcel Jacobs at 6.55 seconds. Now, for anyone that is familiar with Noah Lyles when it comes to sprinting, he is an absolute beast when it comes to holding his form and outlasting pretty much anyone else in the world over the closing stages. He's done this over the 200 meters, he's actually even done this over the 300-meter distance during the indoor circuit. And when it came to this year's Paris 100 meters, these final 40 meters were just outstanding. And he closed his final 50-meter stretch in 4.28 seconds, which is absolutely amazing, again considering that the wind played a big factor in this race. Now I'm going to go ahead and display the full 10-meter splits for Noah Lyles in this race. Again, he got out to a relatively slow start in this field, hitting the opening 10 meters in 1.94, the second 10 meters in 1.05, the third in 0.94, and then followed by a 0.89, and through the 50-meter split, he ran a time of 5.69 with a 10-meter interval of 0.87. Now, it is quite the challenge to get under 0.9 for a 10-meter interval during a 100-meter race, as this is a complete standard when it comes to world-class running over this distance. However, what he did over the final 40 meters is just exceptional running, as from the 60-meter split all the way up to 90 meters, he ran a time of exactly 0.85, and for his final 10-meter split, he ran a time of 0.88. Now, looking at his top-end speed through each of these 10-meter intervals, and considering the fact that he was running into a 1 meter per second headwind, doing a slight wind adjustment here and looking at him running with no wind, we can safely assume that he was running right around 0.83 to 0.84 seconds for each of these 10-meter splits. And if he did this, this would actually place his final 50 meters anywhere from 4.18 seconds up to 4.23. Now, very few athletes have ever dipped below 4.20 for the final 50. In fact, this is some very exclusive company that pretty much only includes Tyson Gay, Usain Bolt, and Johan Blake. However, we have recently been seeing some undeniable greatness from Noah Lyles, and even though the headwind was a big deal during this race, he still ran a very impressive close, and this kind of consistent splits over the closing stages were just completely unmatched. The ultimate goal for Noah Lyles in 2023 is to perform the incredibly difficult double in the 100 and 200 meters come the World Championships, and while I do think he is almost undeniably going to be the champion in the 200 meters, the 100 meters will certainly present even more challenges, and it will certainly make it more difficult difficult given the mandatory qualifying rounds in both of the 100 and the 200 meter dashes. So far this season, Noah Lyles has gone undefeated in the 200 meters, and he's only lost twice in the 100 meters. But he is again proving very consistent sub-10 second running, and with a headwind like this, running a 9.97 really pushes Lyles closer to a true 9.90. And as we all know from last season, he is an absolute master at peaking at the right time. So make sure to keep your eyes on Noah Lyles as the season progresses, because his performances in this year's World Championships very well could be historic. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, until next time.